What's going on, Jeromes? So we here in the great state of Minnesota are in that golden period, a stretch of about 3 to 4 weeks of beautiful spring/summer weather where it's gorgeous out. The heat is off. There's no mosquitoes yet. And you can sleep with the windows open. So I got the window open right now, and I've heard no less than 4 jets and a helicopter go by. Should I be concerned? Like, is this the start of Red Dawn? Wolverines! I'm with you, J.J. McCarthy. Or is this like chemtrails? They're turning the frogs. I don't know, man. But you're Minnesota Vikings offensive line. So for a long time, I mean, we Vikings fans have had issues with the offensive line. Spielman ignores the offensive line. Kwesi, what are you doing? Everything starts and ends up front in the trenches. And it's just like, hey, if we would have gotten Harbaugh, maybe this wouldn't have been an issue. But you do have some tentpole pieces. Christian friggin' Darrisaw is going to be one of the best left tackles in the game, knocking on all the wood if he stays healthy. Brian O'Neill, getting up there in age, but is still one of the best right tackles in the game. For my money, he's top 5, 6 in that range. Bradbury remains, and Blake Brandel is penciled in at the left guard spot with the departure of Dalton Reisner, and the Vikings re-signing Blake Brandel to a pretty sizable 3-year contract, and also Ed Ingram, former second-round pick in year 3, hopefully can make that leap. He greatly improved last year, which I don't know, maybe that says more about his 2022 rookie season. I don't know. But the Vikings do have options along the offensive line of what's going to happen with guard. You do have Ed Ingram, like we said, in year 3. Hopefully he shapes up. Blake Brandel. Tough to handle Blake Brandel. That's right. So former left tackle out of Oregon State in the 2020 draft. And obviously, you know, Chris Cooper and company really do like Brandel. They believe in him, and they see him as a backup who could play all 4 spots, and now he has the opportunity to crack the starting lineup. Also, the Vikings didn't invest heavily along the offensive line, but in terms of specifically interiors, you do have Michael Juergens in the 7th round, played 3 years as center at Wake Forest, and also played 1 year at left guard, and was PFF's number 4 graded guard in the country, which is pretty good. There you go. Also, Walter Rouse. So for me, Walter Rouse is a tackle, but Kwesi has already talked about kicking him inside. I don't know, man. I just don't know. Also, you do have a 6'6" guard out of Georgia, in the great state of Minnesota, and I was told by Austin Rivers that all NBA players can play in the NFL or something like that. I don't know, man. But the Vikings. So overall, as we're crying, so the Vikings, I feel relatively okay about the interior offensive line plan. Now, yes, would have been awesome to land like a Cooper Beebe in the mid rounds, a guy that can plug and play as a starting guard, sure. Or it would have been nice. Now, don't get me wrong, I love me some Dan Feeney. I love the mullet. He's not starting material. He's a decent utility backup. He's basically taken over the role of Austin Schlutman, and that has value, right? But the Vikings in free agency, like there wasn't even necessarily interest of a guy who could step in and potentially start right away, and it sort of is what it is. So it also says a couple things, like A, they believe in the development of Ed Ingram, like we said, former second-round pick of Kwesi. So Kwesi obviously has some skin in the game as well, but also the re-signing Blake Brandel, and like we said, maybe Chris Cooper and company do have big belief in Blake Brandel. But I do think that Juergens could potentially contend for one of the starting guard spots. I think that eventually the plan is going to be him starting at center for Garrett Bradbury, passing the torch. Again, Rouse, which they've talked about, potentially kicking inside. I would prefer if he stays at tackle because he hasn't played a single down inside, and he does have great footwork. He is athletic, and he would be a very good and solid swing tackle to take over for David Quisenberry eventually, because Quisenberry is old. And then the UDFAs, I mean, Jeremy Flax, I mean, they're going to try and kick inside. We'll see. Matt Cindric, former center from Cal. Doug Nestor from West Virginia. Virginia Tech could also kick inside too. Plus, you got Henry Bird and Tyrese Robinson, 2 guys from futures contract, sure. But I do kind of believe the reports that the Vikings are going to see what happens at rookie camp. I think that they're going to try Juergens out at both guard spots as well as center, as well as OTAs, getting these guys on the field and seeing how they stack up, first team, second team, third team. And it could be a spot, too, I mean, the Vikings are in a bit of a holding pattern right now with Dalton Risner. Now, reportedly, they haven't had an offer on the table. Risner hasn't had any interest from other teams either. Remains a free agent after the draft for the second year in a row, which is certainly interesting. But I think it's a spot where they're going to assess. I mean, can Blake Brandel make that leap into the starting lineup? Can Ed Ingram improve in year 3 to be at least replacement level guard, or can he improve? What about Jurgens? What about Rouse? Can Rouse actually kick inside and provide some depth and competition? Possibly. Or, I mean, if things don't look great during OTAs, which, knocking on all the wood, I hope is not the case, or at the start of training camp, things are still kind of dicey, do they get Risner on the horn? And it's like, hey, Dalton, Roadhouse, $1.5 million, or something like that. Or, I mean, the Vikings could look in the free agent guard market, but it is very thin. It is very soft. It is marshmallowy. I mean, Glowinski, Gates, could bring Chris Reed back, except he's not starting caliber. Trey Turner, who we've talked about for many years. Max Sharping's been passed around a little bit. Gabe Jackson, even though he's certainly a little bit longer in the tooth. Wyatt Davis, no matter what. Wyatt Davis is only 25, and Kwesi loves him some mama, I can change him type players, even though he had his opportunity. It doesn't matter. But I do think that the Vikings are... It's like the wide receiver room, and it's like the cornerback room, where there's a lot of question marks, except there's a lot of talent that could step up. Would it shock me at all if Michael Jurgens wins a starting spot out of training camp and preseason into the regular season? No. I think that Jurgens is competitive enough. I think that he does have that pedigree. I think that he's got great movement skills, and I think that he does bring some experience to the table, and I think that he could step in. I think he could supplant Blake Brandel. I think that he could supplant Ed Ingram, or we'll see if the talk about Rouse kicking inside is actually legit. But either way, there are options, and of course, Risner is still just sitting back there chilling. Let me know when you guys need me. Anyways, your thoughts are thoughts. What's the Vikings plan at guard? Let us know your thoughts and questions and blah, blah, blah in the comment section below. You guys are the best. You know what to do. Skull production value.